have here my new book, Gaslit by a Madman, Illuminated Poems, which is a collection of 36 poems released my 36th year on Earth. And it's about my experiences with psychiatry, like most of my writing, but also covers various other subjects. So it's not one-dimensional. And it's my 36 of my most accessible poems from my previous collection, Madness, a Form of Love. And they are, in this book, they are combined with a visual representation of collages of various images which, elaborate on the themes in the poem and bring them to life. Making a nice pleasant, well polished book, which would make a perfect Christmas gift for anybody who likes poetry, particularly slightly more old-fashioned poetry, or poetry which is concerned with real sort of like deep therapeutic emotions, catharsis in the Greek sense, outpourings of pity and fear, but also combined with some more joyful emotions within. And anybody who is interested in the great injustice and suffering and plight of those involved, of the mental health system, and those involved, victims of the mental health, so-called mental health system. Anybody who can spare a thought and a feeling for those people, poor people. And anybody who's interested in alternative spirituality and alternative approaches to the subject of so-called mental health, or perhaps certain more time-honored philosophical or even religious ideas, because there's kind of an interest in religion and particularly Christianity in my writings, my thought. And I play with the the whole religious psychosis idea in my covering of the subject of mental health. But although it's it covers very sort of grave, perhaps upsetting themes, this, if you see this book, it brings it hopefully together in a very lively and colourful way, which should potentially be very inspiring and enjoyable for people, and not just depressing. So, like I say again, it would make the perfect Christmas gift if you're Christian, then you really should be buying this book, for your friends or for yourself, friends and family this Christmas, because Christianity is supposed to be concerned with genuine compassion and the plight for the most suffering individuals in society and the plight, perhaps the most lowly individuals in society. And, if you're actually honest and see things clearly, you see that is in fact the poor mental health patient, so to speak, and schizophrenics who are being robbed of their distinctly human virtue of reason, in the eyes of society, and totally trampled upon, dehumanized, crucified, in silent ignominy in mental institutions, etc., poisonous drugs, which suspend them in a living death state, zombie-like state, for years and years and years, unmourned, unrecognized. So, if you're a Christian, then this is the ideal book and theme, because it deals with genuine inequity and injustice, and and compassion for those unfortunate in society, and at the same time, it overtly risks on Christian themes, and that's why you see the lion and the lamb on the back of the book. So if you're a fan of Jordan Peterson, for instance, and you're sympathetic to his rehabilitation of our Christian legacy, you will want to have this book if you have any interest in books. If you don't read at all, and your friends don't read at all, and you don't buy books, and you never buy books, and you're not interested in contemporary books and contemporary authors, well, then you probably wouldn't want this one either. But if you have any interest in these contemporary authors, contemporary books, contemporary writing, certainly poetry, and you are of some kind of Christian persuasion, or like the thought of Jordan Peterson, well, this would make the ideal Christmas gift. Because it contains, if you pay attention to what I say and what I write, you see there's genuine insight, philosophical insight in it, which is not totally incomparable, and it's a continuation, of the legacy of our great thinkers, like like the same people that Jordan Peterson is interested in, like Dostoevsky, Nietzsche, Jung, etc. But why I'm recommending this book would be because, well, it's just a polished, nice little, precious little trinket, and which makes these kind of ideas and things personable, and and lovely and pretty, and precious, which would make an ideal, very personable kind of gift, other than just like these kind of ponderous philosophical texts and psychological books and texts, which are primarily discursive, but there's really more so for things which are not just abstract, discursive, philosophical, proper texts, but there's also a need for things which are personable and precious, and which come at things from a slightly even more human and personal point of view. And that doesn't make them less intellectually rigorous or or substantial. in many ways, it just makes them less ponderous, and more refined, condensed, mystical, elusive, more room for personal thought and rumination, interpretation. And a certain intimacy with the reader, which you don't get from just more overt discursive texts. But it's true. I mean, if you just want ideas, well, this book would only contain a snapshot, in each poem of like kind of a general coherent worldview. But if you are interested in, the subject of mental health, psychology, from the point of view of somebody who's been involved with this area, but a more kind of philosophical, discursive approach to the subject than a poetry book, then I've also written, 500-page, work of philosophy, which which tackles the subject from that direction. Which I'm sure could potentially provoke a lot of insights in the right audience. It could be an opportunity for new insight from a certain group of people who could benefit from it. But there's kind of deep philosophical wisdom available, all over the internet anyway now. So I'm not saying that my book is particularly necessary, to gain the kind of insight I'm talking about. But on the other hand, it's an artistic work whole, which portrays things from a certain point of view, which is probably as good as most, or better than a lot of what is out there. On the other hand, there's already authors like Nietzsche who are out there, and Plato, who probably considerably more mature and better than my book. But there's a lot of worse books on the market which sell much better. Mine would probably be in the top percentage of philosophically enlightened authors which are out there. Even if it would sound singing my own praises to say so, but I have to sing my own praises because I'm completely. I don't sell any books, and I don't have. I'm not part of any academic institution, and I don't have any credentials behind me. So, all I have is my own recommendation at the moment. So it would be even worth leaving saying nothing. mean, ideally, I suppose you have other people to sing your praises. That looks a lot better. Uh, but failing that, you just have to do it yourself. So this is the book again. I was going to read the second poem after the book, but I've been talking too much, and so I'll just start another video for that. Instead, I'll just read out. I'll just say more about the book and read out the titles. Well, I'll read out the introduction about the book. Gaslit by a Madman, the certifiably true ravings of a section philosopher. It's a droll take on the subjects of mental health, political issues, and Nietzschean, Christian, Jungian, existentialist, and postmodern philosophy. Don't be afraid to question your worldview. Don't be afraid to think you might be a bit mad. Who isn't? It's based on the author Max J. Louis' own experience as an oh-so-patient patient in the NHS mental health system, veritably knocked off his horse by two out-of-control, gaslighting shrinks at the tender age of 23. His writings trace his recovery from this life-changing iatrogenic incident over the next 12 or so years, exploring the mad identity that was placed upon him and the truly insane, or certainly very flawed and eyebrow-raising system, which so unfortunately often does such things to quite healthy and relatively rational people. This companion volume, released on his 36th, that is 6x6 birthday, as a little gift for the beast, presumably, but who knows, maybe Lucifer, maybe Jesus, maybe the old bearded madman at the end of the street with the "Apocalypse is nigh" cardboard sign hung to the back of his bike. It contains 36 beautifully illuminated poems in the manner of William Blake, only with modern day collaged images from around the World Wide Web. And then the next part is from the back of my previous book. And that goes, madness has always fascinated and terrified the mind of man in equal measure. In today's medicalized, normalized world, it has come to be seen simply as a disease, an ugly blight on the smooth, cog-like operation of the social organism. Our very language has become impoverished by the steady stream of scientific neologisms which have rushed to take its stead, leaving us with only the cold apparatus of an all too suspect, bullying, and antiseptic reason. Once the most intimate bedfellow, not only of depthless despair, but also of high ecstasy and genius, he seemed to have all but forgotten the myriad enchantments with which this fateful daimon, to quote Socrates, once tempted us. This book is both a chronicling of the author's own personal voyage through such altered states of consciousness, through to the far greater, far more intimidating battle with the very system that was allegedly put in place to try to heal him. Here is his invitation to all sufferers and practitioners alike to glimpse beyond the borders of the straitjacketed, dysfunctional status quo, and just maybe rekindle that sense of mystery and magic, the sense of possibility once associated with this most uncanny and uncompromising of guests. At times an exuberant jubilee to pure lunacy, at others a scathing, disappeased presentation of the current mental health establishment, and at others as melancholy, cathartic a song as the trail of Dionysus's adoring attendants. Madness, a form of love, is a gambit not to anesthetize, Aneth- Anesthes- sorry, I'm embarrassing myself. Anesthetize and sedate our dangerous gifts, but to joyfully embrace them, and with them our secret innermost selves, to live authentically in the light of the absurd, inconvenient, mad, short for miracles a dozen, truths of our existence. Caution: this book contains poetry. Side effects include ecstatic, trance-like states, life-changing epiphanies, rebellious outrage, vomiting up society's propaganda, foaming at the mouth, increased working vocabulary, uncontrollable weeping or laughter, mild shortness of breath, and slight dizziness. And then just the acknowledgements, which is a dismal literal story, which I'll just read out as well. Thank you to those who supported me without having received anything in return. Especially the great previous writers and poets, precious rare voices of sanity amidst history's cruel seeming idiot cacophony, who inspired me and led me to express myself at all. Also, many thanks to my friend from India for helping me put this together in a publishable format, and especially my first book, from which these poems are drawn, without which publication and resulting unexpected victory in Realistic Poetry's 2018 Perspectives of Love contest, I'd probably still be being crucified by the medical establishment and utterly lost, dysfunctional, and miserable. Thank you to the one or two doctors and nurses who have done their little bit to extricate me from that situation which the original doctors threw me into for years and years. So I don't mention names, which is very honourable, I think. And I'll just read out the list of the titles of the poems, and then end this video, I think. 1, Madness, a Form of Love, title of my first collection. 2, He Strove. 3, In the Garden. 4, Orchid. 5, Lunar Portal. 6, Tiny Little Pill. 7, Lobotomize the Beast. 8, Love is Not Blind. 9, Thoughts of the Unborn. 10, Picked. 11, My Prospective Ubermensch. 12, Sacred Jungle of Dreams. 13, A Scapegoat. 14, Piloting the Soul. 15, The Hippocratic Oath. 16, Community Nurse. 17, Spirit's Ladder. 18, meeting with the most beautiful angel. 19, just more meds. 20, Dionysus on the dole. 21, hearing from history. 22, city sage. 23, love's little vandal. 24, the death of a flower girl. 25, mine like a garden. 26, Backstreet Buddha, let's fall a duel. 27, the wheels of samsara. 28, cherub rock. 29, pill puppet poet. 30, through a window pane. 31, you. 32, sturdy stalwart stance. 33, blueberry bodhisattva. 34, all quiet on the frontal lobes. 35, lost in the fray. 36, rivers of eternity for RW. And I'll also read out my biography at the back of the book. Max J. Louis was born in the ex-coal mining area of South Wales Valleys, UK, to a Jewish father and English mother, and is now a recovering patient of mental health system abuses. He studied philosophy at Warwick University, undergoing a spiritual transition and potential breakthrough, which was aborted and derailed by misplaced treatment. He spent 6 months living on the street as a runaway from NHS services in Brighton. He self-published his first book, poetry, Madman's Form of Love, last year, detailing his ordeals as a form of therapy, at Poetry Not Pills, at Meditation Not Sedation, and Defense, and is the winner of Realistic Poetry's 2008 Perspectives of Love Poetry Contest for the poem Rivers of Eternity for RW. While currently spending his time writing poetry and philosophy about mental health, he is also considering retraining to work in the field of artificial intelligence, although, as he says himself, his intelligence is already highly artificial. In his spare time, he plays tennis, drinks pure cacao sweetened with manuka honey, along with various other herbal remedies and holistic health rituals, and avoids doctors at all costs. And after the 36 poems, there's several like memes that I've created, or they're just quotes from myself and other authors about madness and mental health, with more collaged, very colorful and vibrant images to go with them. And I'll just leave you with one of them. Birds born in a cage think flying is an illness. That's by somebody who I don't know, Alejandro Jodorowsky. But it's a beautiful quote, and also true how well, if there's if all birds are born in the cage, the one who managed to escape and starts to fly, well, he's going to be labeled as mentally ill for no other reason, if only because you know everybody is so jealous and envious of this bird which can fly because he's doing what they all want to do, and they'll be dead jealous and envious and resentful of it, and as a result, they will slander him and say that this bird is mentally ill. Because that's exactly how society tends to operate, and how people are. Although, obviously, there are exceptions, and we need to cultivate those exceptions and counter trends, if still possible. Not be totally pessimistic and hopeless.